Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and today's video is the Ultimate Works Slimflex that I just finished up for Toby, aka the Sheev. This is a really cool hilt. It's done by a company called Ultimate Works, also known as the Pach Store, P-A-C-H. But the man behind the mask is Aaron Lynn. He does really good work. His hilts are just really without fail always well done. Not necessarily the absolute best version of every single hilt he does, but certainly better than most. And I have never been disappointed in anything that I've gotten from Ultimate Works. And I don't think he or the Pach Store or Ultimate Works gets a whole lot of recognition, a whole lot of notice. I don't even know if a whole lot of people know that he exists or that the company exists, and I don't know if that's by design, so if so, I apologize. I don't want to blow up your spot. But just giving credit where credit's due, this is a beautiful hilt. I did nothing to the exterior. This is exactly how it looks out of the box. I thought I had a clean glove on here. Pardon me, I just get some schmutz on the chrome. Hopefully that's the last time that'll happen. As you can see, the whole thing is finished in chrome with the exception of the replica clamp here, which is polished aluminum, but it's got a great finish on it. It's nice and shiny. And then the knurled diamond stamped section is really nicely done, really clean, and really deep. The diamond section and channel here is really deep. It's like 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch even. No, probably a 1/16 of an inch deep, but it's deeper than most I've seen. And there are a bunch of these hilts out right now. Like, this is a popular hilt all of a sudden. There's the Ultimate Works, this one, the Slimflex, and then there's the Skinny Flex. There's the orbital machining version, which is really crazy expensive and really crazy nice. But that's because it's hand machined by a guy in the US who literally turns them himself on his lathe, or I don't know if he uses CNC or not. He must, but so the orbital machining ones sell for anywhere from $600-700 to $1,500 just for an empty hilt. This guy was $250, I think, empty. So you can't go wrong with the price, and the quality it's really nice. Then Corbanth just did one. 89 Sabers did one. I don't know if they both did one before they teamed up, or if they did just one after they teamed up. But there's a lot of options for this guy right now. But as far as I'm concerned, if I were doing more, I would go with the Ultimate Works version, presuming you can get one. That's the only downside, I guess, with the Pach Store Ultimate Works hilts, is that there's not an endless supply of them like there is with Corbanth stuff, 89 Saber stuff. He does a run, I don't know, maybe 100 of each, 200-300 of each at most, I don't know, but doesn't seem like a lot. They sell out quick, they're gone. He may do a run again, he may not, but they're definitely a bit harder to get a hold of, especially if you miss the original sale. But at any rate, I'm definitely a big fan of this guy. The details are great. The grips are rubber, which is nice, so they're not hard or uncomfortable in your hand, but they come with actual sufficient grip tape to keep them stuck on, which is hard with rubber because bonding rubber to anything is just difficult. It comes with a blade plug. Not the best blade plug in the history of blade plugs, but it's not bad. It's representative. It looks pretty good. It looks similar to what you would expect it to look like as far as screen accuracy. The finish is terrific. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of on this is the button up here and the button or gold glass eye down here. The color on this guy and this guy is like, it's like an anodized metal that's anodized in a orangish, goldish, whereas this slidey switch doohickey replica clamp lever, whatever you want to call it, that's gold chrome. and the clamp card, as you can see, is bronze or brass, but it's a PCB, it's a circuit card, circuit board. So these guys, this doesn't match this and this doesn't match this, so all three things are different. These two look terrific. I love the look of these, and if you take anything that's really a fine abrasive, like some ultra fine steel wool or some 600 sandpaper or a polishing wheel, you can buff this PCB and it will shine like this. So these are great, but these two are not consistent with these two, and as far as I know, every other Anakin replica Return of the Sith Graflex that I've seen, these are gold chrome. They're not this color. So that's my only gripe. Otherwise, terrific. Size-wise, I'll do a little side-by-side comparison for you guys. Here's a flashback, blast from the past. This is a 2010 Hasbro Force FX Anakin Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith, I mean. And you can see, side by side, there's quite a size difference here. The length is the same. They are identical in length. But the thickness, if you look at just the grip section here, the FX on top is much, much, much thicker, and it's much thicker all the way through. And this actually is one of the nicer FX hilts. I think they did a really nice job with this one for a relatively inexpensive lightsaber. It's a pretty well done hilt, and it's mostly all metal. But this guy is much more screen accurate as far as size goes, and it's a much nicer size, a much nicer feel in hand when you're holding it, swinging it, playing with it. It's a good size. It's right in line with what I like. Here is one of the all-time tiny ones. This is the Watto's Junkyard Tusken Slayer. So for reference, here are the two side by side. As you can see, the Slimflex is not a whole lot bigger than the Tusken Slayer. It is bigger. This guy's got a diameter of about, I don't know, 1.25 inches, and this guy might be 1 3/8, 1.5 inches. So pretty similar, and this guy is small. Okay, so on to the good stuff. We've gotten through the boring bits here. This guy, I had to do a completely custom install because there really isn't any chassis designed specifically for this. And that is actually a common problem that you will run into if you're going to try to do a build on an Ultimate Works Aaron Lynn hilt. Very few of them actually have any chassis done for them because he and Rick Ryo, Goth 3 Designs, don't really have a business relationship, so much to say that he doesn't do chassis for him. So I'm not sure why that is. Maybe he's just never been asked. But so what I did was I found a chassis that I could work with. This is it, but it looks nothing like what it did look like. It used to be about that long. It's considerably wider and had a lot more stuff going on. And I just removed all the different parts that I couldn't work with because, pardon me, the inside of this guy just is unique, and you know, there's not a whole lot of room in there. So this is what we're left with, and it is, I want to say it's a 1.1 or 1.2 inch diameter chassis that Goth 3 Designs did do. I forget what saber this is actually intended for, but it's got this unique bullseye thing going on here, which is probably enough for you guys to find it if you go on Shapeways. But this is the guy that I went with, and I was looking at this hilt in conjunction with this old FX lightsaber, and it gave me an idea in how I wanted to do the build. Back in the day, way back in the day, talking 6, 7, 8 years ago, I started building lightsabers, working on these old FX sabers, and kind of my thing, my niche in the market really was taking the old ones, the pre-2010 ones and the newer ones that are 2016, 17, 18s, that were one piece permanently attached hilts, and customizing them to be removable blade. Not making them into Luxion, not in hilt LED, but leaving the string blade on, but making them removable. And what I used to do is use RJ45 connectors and then create some sort of system to actually attach the blade to the hilt. So this is a Darth Maul that I did many years ago. And this top of the emitter actually unscrews, which is perfect. And then you have this plastic section here that keeps it inserted into the hilt so it's attached. And then, as I said, I used to use an RJ45 connector system to make the connection. And yeah, it's perfect for this because this can only go in one way. So you can't put it in wrong no matter what you do. It won't connect unless it's in correctly. And that's key because you don't want positive and negative to get switched up and ground out and blow your sound card or whatever. So the only way this blade can go in is if it's correct. And these old blades, these old string blades, needed 7, sometimes 8 different wires to go from the blade to the sound card, because there are 6 segments in the LED string, and then there is a power wire, and then there is a clash sensor. So you have to have a connector that's got at least 7, if not 8, different connections, and RJ45 has 8, so it's got 8 connections. It's small, it's compact, and it can only be inserted one way, and that is ideal for making a lightsaber connection or a blade connection, before pogo pins existed. Going back 3 years ago, pogo pins and all these funky new connectors that we get to play with nowadays, none of them existed. So you really were stuck with what you could kind of find at a Radio Shack or at a auto parts store or something. So a lot of people use really funky DIN connectors, or people bought Hasbro lightsabers that had removable blades and pulled the blade connectors out of them and put them into the other saber that they were working with, but there wasn't a whole lot of ways to do it. And I don't know that anyone else did it this way, but this way worked great for me. So, long story short, because I was thinking about old FX sabers, I decided that because I needed a good connector for this Slimflex, and it needed to have 6 or 7 different pins or connections, I needed something similar to what I used to use back in the day. There you go. That used to make me so happy. That is just feeble. That is just feeble now. I don't know how that ever used to really be amazing to me, but at any rate, it used to. So, enter the Slimflex and welcome back the RJ45 connector. This is, as you can tell from the wire colors, this is not a standard RJ45 connector. You're never going to buy a Cat 6 cable or Cat 5 cable that's got those color wires in it, and that's because I made this from scratch. And that's something that's a good idea. You could just chop the end off a Cat 5 cable and use it, but you're gonna risk a little there because you don't know the quality or the gauge of the wires that they're using. So I choose to instead build my own. I just get the empty plastic connector casings, and then I use my own 28 or 26 gauge, whatever, depending on what wiring I'm doing, PTFE, military spec wire, and I put that into the connector. And then on the other end, I do the same thing. I if you look down in there, you could see the female end, and that's another homemade, handmade RJ45 female connector done with the same wiring. And once again, it's perfect because this guy can only be inserted one way, and that way is the correct way. That's your main power switch here. And all you have to do is just kind of line up where they're going to go, slide it in, boom, Bob's your uncle. And then you screw the pommel cap on there to keep it in place. And the cap is all that holds this guy in place, but the connector is sufficient to keep this end locked in place, and this cap keeps the other end locked in place, so it's a very stable situation, very stable connection. We've got Proffieboard, of course, over here. I added a recharge port on this side. Like I said, kill switch over here. This is a removable 18650 battery, and one of my JBL 28mm drivers. And then this guy is a speaker cover that I actually had left over from an old install. This was part of a Goth redesigned Canaan chassis, I think, and I just didn't need it for that build because of the way I built it. This wasn't necessary, so I saved it, and it was perfect because for this guy I needed something to protect the speaker, because otherwise this cap would be bumping right against the speaker. But now this cap bumps against this bar, this crossbar, and the speaker doesn't distort or tap the end, and that's just right. Alright, so now she's in place. What I did was use this as your power / activation button up here, and then the bottom side, this guy right here, I made the auxiliary button. This is what I did was I made the not just the gold button, but the entire apparatus. If you look real close, you can see that the whole thing moves. So that whole thing is now a functional button, and that took a little doing, but the way this gold button is designed, it's designed to give you the option of making it a button, but you can't actually do that because it's threaded and it screws in, so there is no give to it. So the whole thing has to give. So I'm not sure how or why it's designed that way, or if Aaron intended that or made a mistake, but the only way to actually make that a functional button is to make the whole thing a button. And by the whole thing, I mean the whole chrome apparatus around it and the gold bit. So there's the blade plug I showed you earlier. It's got a nice illumination. And blade retention is accomplished by this screw right here. Not quite loose enough yet, I guess. There we go. So there's your blade plug. Very simple, just a straightforward guy. Inside there, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there we go. So it's a Shtok Custom Worx Neopixel blade connector with onboard Neopixels, and that's housed inside the aluminum heatsink that actually comes with this lightsaber. That's the heatsink intended for a Luxion build, with a clear plexiglass cover that's been sanded to diffuse the light. So it's a nice clean looking setup. If you look in there, it looks really good. And as you can see, it really diffuses the light well. Once it's turned on, it's just a solid bright area. You don't really see the individual pixels. Let's put the blade in. Where is the blade? Ah, here we go. Now, the blade, because Toby wanted me to do a trans white blade for this, I ended up having to do something quite a bit different here. It's a tight fit for those of you guys who are going to try to build this guy, beware. This is going to require some sanding, both on the blade side, as you'll notice that this adapter here is pretty heavily sanded down, and on the inside of the emitter here, all the way down to your blade connector, I had to sand that out pretty substantially, and that's still a snug fit. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it's just the plating process. There was some extra material plated on there that made the blade holder a little bit tighter than it really ought to be, but it's really hard to get a 7/8 blade in here. You have to cram it in or sand it down so it fits nicely. So that's what I ended up doing, but what I ended up doing was making a 3/4 inch Neopixel string blade. And this is not my first, but one of my firsts. The only other 3/4 inch Neopixel string blades I've really done up till now have been on Kylo Ren side blades on crossguard hilts. I've not actually done a main blade in 3/4 inch, and mostly because I hadn't really had any reason to, but it's been something that's been going in the back of my mind, something I wanted to try, because I really like 7/8 inch better than 1 inch, and I don't know why, but the thinner the better, in my opinion. It just aesthetically, it looks better being a bit thinner. So I thought, hey, 3/4 might look better too. So here is the standard 1 inch blade, or actually not even, that's the Hasbro blade, so it's just under 1 inch. And then here is 7/8 inch, which is what I usually use. And then this guy is 3/4. And as you can tell, it actually is quite a bit skinnier than even the 7/8. So the blade in this guy is pretty thin, but it's awesome looking. It's really well diffused. You don't see any corn cobbing. You don't see the individual pixels at all. And it's done in trans white. I'm going to try to make one of these in standard regular polytube like this guy, but I didn't have that, and Toby wanted a trans white blade, so this was a perfect time for me to give that a try. So this is a 3/4 inch Neopixel Proffieboard Slimflex. And most of the blades are blue, different shades of blue, because that's what Toby wanted. This is a really heavy, flickery blue with a yellow flash on flash. And then this is a deep sky blue. This is the electricity blade. This is a blue / slight purple tint pulse blade with a red flash on flash. It's really cool in person. It's really just the contrast and the aggressiveness of the clash color is intense. And then this is... oh, this is the turbine blade. No, it's not. I lied. This is, I guess, just... oh, this was an experimental blade I did to try to experiment with some really, really light blues. So this is like a baby blue almost. With some really crazy stuff going on for the blaster block, the flash on clash, and the blade lockup. It's almost got like a lime green blade lockup, but it's really drastic. And then it's got a similar color for the blaster block, but it doesn't really show through as well. And then the next blade I think is the turbine blade, and it is a yellow to blue turbine. It's really quick, so you'll probably miss it if you blink. Just kidding, that's not this one. This is very similar to the last one. I'm not sure what the difference is. Maybe this is the turbine blade. Yep, okay, so standard bright blue. With some really funky different, what's the word? Brown noise flicker effects used for blaster box, flash on clash, and blade lockup. It's hard to see, but if you look when I do a clash, it's not just a different color, it's a different color with some brown noise going on inside of it. Same with the blade lockup. And then when you turn it off and on, it cycles up and cycles back down from blue to white to yellow. But it goes really quick, so it's easy to miss. But it's a really cool effect. Yeah, I really like that blade. And you guys are probably saying, why is everything a blue blade on this? That's what Toby wanted. So I tried to come up with all the different blue blades I could think of, just so that it wasn't a whole bunch of blue blades that are all the same. I tried to make them all a bit different and kind of unique. And then he wanted a couple reds. So he got a couple reds. Obviously, because Anakin is Vader, and so you get blue and you get red. And then I put a fire blade on here just because I really wanted to see what a fire blade looked like in 3/4 inch, and it's awesome. The thing that I really noticed the most about the fire blade in 3/4 inch is how fast the fire effect seems to move. It's just an optical illusion. The fire is not actually going any faster, but the wider, the fatter your blade is, the slower the effect seems to go up the blade. So watch in the reflection of the monitor here, it seems to just fly up the blade. And unfortunately I don't have anything handy to compare it with and show you guys, but if any of you guys have a 1-inch blade at home, compare it and watch the speed of the fire, and you'll notice it seems to go a lot slower up the blade. But it's just because it's wider, and it's just playing tricks on your mind, but it looks really cool how fast it is. And then last is just a battery life indicator blade. And then back to the beginning. So, that in a nutshell is that. I don't think there's a whole lot more to say about this guy, but this is the Aaron Lynn Pach Store Ultimate Works Slimflex. It's a really beautiful hilt, done really well. I'm a big fan of it. It's really well balanced. The fit and finish are great. The build quality is really nice. It was a pleasure to work with. Aside from the couple small things I mentioned, I didn't really have any complaints about it at all. And Toby, I hope you like it. Once you have a chance to watch the video, get back to me and let me know if you have any questions, you want me to change anything, add anything. Otherwise, she's all set and I'll put her in the mail to you right away. I know you want to have this within the next week,